Hello and welcome everybody to our sixth episode of our show, Tawheed, Spiritual Unity of the Three Principles. And today I have with me my co-host, Harry Terbitsky, and my name is Omar Musa. So today's topic is questions on the mind of the Muslim community. And this one gonna be really interesting one, and I was so looking forward to it. And today we're going to be both exploring with attendees and Harry the questions that are in the mind of Muslim basically, and that we could all relate to from all different religions. That's how I see it. So welcome Harry, and welcome everyone.
Thank you. And by the way, when Omar asks these questions, not only are we asking for others to participate, but I have never heard these questions before. This is a 3P concept. If you don't prepare, it comes out as original thought. Canned preparation sometimes sounds okay, but it's more intellect, and it doesn't have the free flow. And also, I like the, I guess the word is challenge of hearing a question that I haven't heard before and see what I come up with. Because next, if the show was tomorrow, I'd answer it in a different way. Okay, Omar, thank you.
Yeah, so I have a few, actually, I've asked few people to tell me what's on their mind, what question they have. And one of the questions that I had is about blaming ourselves, really. And the question was how to stop blaming yourself for something you do at work that you feel uncomfortable to do. And the example was a lady working in a pharmacy, and she is selling codeine. And some people who are addicted to codeine comes and buy the codeine, you know, to get high, basically, not to use it for anything else. And the lady in question feels really bad and told that. So how do you think blaming yourself in this situation could make it worse? Or
it's a good question, isn't it?
What do you think here?
And you could see that it would create a lot of problems. There's a difference between personal morality and work morality. So on a personal level, of course, she would never hand out any codeine to somebody who she felt was using it to get high. But on a work level, she has a different responsibility. And I want to give an example of that. This is what came to my mind, Omar. I have a lawyer friend who was on the biggest case in Canada's history. It was a drug case with the mafia. And he was the co-prosecutor, but he was the assistant prosecutor. And after spending just the most expensive money that you can imagine on the case, and over a year, the head prosecutor got up and said, we've decided to dismiss the charges. And I said, holy mackerel. I said to him, how did you feel about that? He said, I didn't feel anything. That's just the way it is. That's the way it works. And that was it. And he walked off. He wasn't affected by it. So he had a detachment. He was an incredibly top prosecutor, but he had a detachment to working in terms of the case. Now it's the same for me. I work with a lot of clients around the world. And if I'm attached to the results and to the effects that happen to them, I'm going to go down and up, depending on how they do. That is a sure case of burnout. If I'm doing what I'm doing, where I'm affected by what is happening to the client, I care. Don't get me wrong, I care. And I do my absolute best. But if a client, for instance, like I have a client who was growing and growing, and then he relapsed into heroin and all this stuff, and he's ended up in the hospital. I I just look at it like, okay, when we get together, which will be tonight, with it's just business as usual. You cannot be in work. You have there's an objectivity. Obviously, when you're at home with your wife or your husband or your kids, it's a totally different picture. But when you're working, there's just stuff you have to have a thick skin. I don't know if you understand the metaphor thick skin. And that allows you to understand the only way you can get hurt is via thought. So there's the three principles. As soon as you tie in this with a negative thought, it has to create a negative feeling. So I'm saying objectivity is better than subjectivity. I'm saying thinking about something that's going to make you feel uncomfortable is like sitting at your house having a cup of tea and thinking about something that is going to make you feel uncomfortable. So that's it. That's my initial thoughts on it. And Omar, how do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually thinking about what the lady really meant by that, feeling uncomfortable doing that, because in Islam there is something called, you know, halal haram. I'm sure most people know what is that, and you know, for her doing this something that is see bad in the religion itself, like you are kind of, you know, helping out people to harm themselves, and the burden that comes with that is what's really people suffer, you know, and the burden that comes with that comes via thoughts, if we look at it in a deeper way, and you know, we say that Allah is always with you and Allah loves you, and sometimes we think that we are doing something really bad. We don't want to do it, but we are contributing to doing it. But in actual fact, there is no other options. So your intentions are what really matters in this situation. This is how I see it. If your intention is pure, you're fine. And what keeps hurting you really is just the way you see it. You know, it's the meaning that people give to that. That's what's hurting us. Because in the Quran, there is a verse in the Quran that says that if you feel bad, you did it to yourself. You know, if something good comes to you, it's from Allah. It's from this infinite intelligence. There is something that comes to you. It's from you, and you here is the ego. You know, we all fall into our egos from time to time, but when we see that the ego itself cannot hurt, like it doesn't have any power in its own right. It's made up. We bring it to life. When we see it through it, we come back to that spiritual side of life, and we come back to ourselves, and we are safe there. Operating from that space is basically what this is the level we see blame as it is. It's a thought in our mind at that moment, because I'm sure you feel good when you have good thinking.
I'm just going to give a bottom line explanation to the thing. If the thought is hurting your mental health, and in the indigenous world, this happens a lot, where their thoughts injure their mental health, it's not healthy for you to have it. It's just that simple. That's the bottom line. If the thought is hurting you, then there's something deeper you have to go to understand it. And letting go of that thought is necessary so that you don't injure your mental health. And that's the bottom line. If it's going to hurt you in your mental health level, that leads to all the bad habits that you personally experience. Even though you're right, you're wrong. And that's a little bit of a funny thing to say, but I seem to come up with that a lot. Even though I'm right, I'm wrong because I'm hurting myself. And that's the bottom line.
There is also one aspect of that. In Islam, we say like we are allowed to do certain works, and for example, it's forbidden to serve alcohol, because you're contributing to making people drunk, and when people get drunk, some people get overly drunk and they could harm themselves or harm others, and like, for example, me, when I was in London, sometimes I was booked to work in an event, and in that event I could do a bartender, or I could just work as a waiter. And sometimes I don't have a choice. Some people understand and some people doesn't. Sometimes I carry juices, sometimes I have to carry something that I don't want to carry. But I know for sure that this infinite intelligence that we call Allah is not going to beat us up for that one mistake, because we are not here to be perfect anyways. We are trying our best, we're trying our best, and with that we make the right choices, or what seems right to us at that specific time, and that's how I see it. And I'm sure that some people would disagree with this, and of course it's okay. We are here to explore this together and see what will bring us closer to this infinite intelligence, will bring us closer to to our true self.
Any observations from anyone about that? It's an interesting question you brought up, Omar, because we everywhere in the news we're bombarded with stuff that we find offensive. Like, it's not just in work; it's just the news and the politics and just the way people are, the low level of society. I know Muslims have a beautiful religion and beautiful people, but of course there's also scheming, etc. type of people in that type of stuff. So we're going to be always bombarded. And one thing I disagree with you, I don't think there's any mistakes. Whatever decision she makes, someone may interpret it as a mistake, but I don't believe it's a mistake. If you feel right about what you're doing, I'm sure Allah will say, beautiful. That's what I think. They'll excuse the expression, but that's what. So we're continually being bombarded. Like, I find Trump offensive. To be honest, and every time I see him, my mind goes crazy, and I go, I gotta get out of this. I just gotta get out of this. I can't. Before I know it, I'm creating a whole imagination of reality of which I am destroying Donald Trump, type of thing. How stupid is that? So we don't want to be in there. It hurts. It hurts being inside, the inside feeling that we need as a guide. So that's the bottom line. If the inside feeling that you need as a guide is letting you feel free of your own ego thoughts, as Omar says, good. Good test, isn't it? You can see she's tested Life, every time Trump comes on, I'm tested. Every time I go to my sister's home and they want to talk about pro Donald Trump, I just, hey, that's really delicious tea. Wonderful tea, you know. Just keep your mind away from that stuff. Sid used to talk about jamming the ego thoughts. I hadn't, that's an old thing, but jamming it. And Omar came up with a beautiful metaphor, collapse of the ego. Beautiful. That's what the test is. We have our images, we have our ideas from the personal level, but on the impersonal level, inside out understanding. And that's what it's going to lead her to. If she's a woman, she will come up with a bigger understanding of how she can deal with not only this situation, but hundreds of situations like that. I know for me, an old guy, never ends. The world is so crazy.
Beautiful. So I would like to ask if anyone wants to ask a question or have any comments that you want to be added to the conversation. That would be really useful. Otherwise, you could pass to the next question.
If they don't want to, it's fine too. So good question. I love that first question.
Me too.
I've never been asked that question, and it's so relevant to our world. Practical question, very practical.
So I have a good one. How would you explain that the teachings of the three principles are compatible with Islam?
With what?
With Islam.
Oh, great question.
I can start, if you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind at all.
So it's a really tough question, and I didn't even think about the answer. But you know, to me, the three principles is more, you know, the spiritual side of Islam. You know, because when I hear truth, it brings me closer to my to my religion. I see it from another lenses, not the contaminated ones, not the ones that people wear when they see hate and stuff. I see it completely different, and I don't try to put my thinking into it. I don't try to put my little mind into these holy book. I try to see it as it is, and when I do this, like the insights that I get from the book are mind-blowing. You know, something that I haven't seen before. You know, you hear people saying about you know, reading Sid Banks books, and they see something new. Like I remember Dr. Bill Pettit was speaking in the conference last year in London, and he was talking about the book Second Chance, when Jonathan and the other character, I don't remember the name, Richard, I think, one of them asked about what's the purpose of life, and the other character says it's to be content. And then the next question was like, is that all? Like, is that all? Like, there is no other thing to do? And the answer was, isn't that enough? Bill Pettit was talking about this story, like he liked the new addition that Sid Banks added to the book. So he called straight away Sid Banks, and he was like, oh, Sid, I really loved, you know, the new addition you added in Second Chance. And Sid Banks was laughing, and he was like, imagine him like about to fall out of his chair. And he said, I didn't add a word to it. Bill was ready to hear something new. So he did. Even he read the book, you know, plenty of times. But every time we approach this kind of books, when truth is spoken, we see it from completely different lenses. We hear something new because we are not projecting our little mind or intellect or what we know into the book, but we are seeing it. You know, we are reading to get impacted. We are reading for insight, not for information, and that's the Holy Book is about. And the Quran and the Bible and all religious books. When you read a holy book, it's of a paramount importance to read it when your mind is quiet. You know, because that's the moment your ego is easily taken out of the equation. And you touch in the now psychology. We talked a lot about in the now psychology. This is the perfect moment when you connect with the present moment and you're there. You're reading the book. You're feeling it, and you see it as it is, not as it is from our, you know, blind spots and thoughts, but as it is.
That's beautiful. Gee, I enjoyed that. One of the feelings, like since I have never read the Quran and really very, very limited in my exposure and understanding to the Muslim religion, it's been beautiful for me, like it's been teaching me. Like it's kind of like a virgin mind that's exposed to truth through a perspective that is very appealing to the way that I feel. And so I've been touched by the beauty of it and the purity of it and the depths of it and how it's practical to people. But I've noticed how it's made people into better human beings, and it's already touched me. The feeling, remember, Sydney Banks is talking about the feeling only. The feeling, it's brought a feeling into me, and a feeling that I need to experience through a teaching that is pure truth. So pure truth, Sydney Banks, pure truth, Quran, pure truth, the words of Jesus Christ. All very clearly said, all religions at the origin is pure truth. Everything comes from pure truth and points towards pure truth. So it's touched me, and so has the three principles touched me in a way that I love. Now, I asked Shauna Rosenblatt at a conference, she's Rabbi Rosenblatt's wife, how she saw the same question that Omar said, how she saw Jewish religion and the three principles. And she answered, everything in its origin comes from the three principles. So no matter what, it all comes from the three principles. But I prefer to demonstrate the three principles as a Jewish person. And I love that. And it's my way of perfection of using the three principles. So at the origin, before anything, you are the three principles. Not only do they emanate through you, but you are the three principles. And from that, through free will, you express it in your own unique way. And you find flavors of truth that appeal to you. In Omar's case, his understanding of that is never ending. In Omar's case, his understanding of the three principles is never ending. And so we find, gee, it's fun for the mind to be fertile in the spiritual realm of life and connecting formlessness and form together. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to be. It's good for the mind to look at that. And every time Omar does the prayers or the Quran in humbleness, he's opening himself up to the same thing that I experience when I do the pipe with people in the indigenous world, the flow through of the spirit, the letting go of all that crap that's in our heads. And when we experience the oneness of life, we don't say, did I get it from the Quran, or did I get it from Sydney Banks, or did I get it from the, I got it, thank you. That's all we say. If we say thank you, we completed the circle. We don't say thank you and just say, I got it, back in ego, back into your thinking, back into that. Back away from what the Quran is saying, the truth is setting you free. Now, for me, my pursuit of life for a very long time was, how does native spirituality and the three principles join together? I'm going to tell you the answer to that, what I came up with. It won't make sense to you, but it makes total sense to me. The two met inside me. The two, when I was just being Harry, the two were together. It didn't matter whether I was doing a ceremony in an indigenous perspective or I was teaching three principles. They're both the same thing. So, and they all flow through me. And through Omar, he doesn't do a pipe ceremony. He has the Quran, the teachings of Muhammad, and the prayers every day. It all flows through him. Does it make you feel good to have both, Omar?
Well, definitely. I mean, it's really important to turn into the spiritual side of a religion and not see just, the words and the rules, because in the spiritual side of any religion, really, there is this point where all religions meet, and since you used to say that there's only one God, there is only one truth, there is only one principle, it's divine mind. The principle of thought and consciousness, it's just a way to describe the unseen, and it's not it. That's where people get caught up in the three principles as a thing. It's not. It's spiritual. Its job is to turn us back to ourselves, to see and experience life through this three principles. And when we operate from that space, we could really learn from anything and everyone. And I mean, I learn from babies, I learn from kids. I'm just sometimes by myself sitting with my little cousin. He's 5 years old, and he's so wise, he plays freely. He's not worried. He doesn't grab into his thoughts and play with it. He's just doing himself, he's doing his true self. And we lose that with time because we get caught up. That's the only thing. We get caught up in the illusion. And a sweet reminder, or when we hear truth, like Sydney Banks states, for me, like it's like favorite music of our soul. Our soul, you know, is back to life. And when we see through that lenses, we're really in that, you know, state of purity as a child. So our job basically is just to make people come back to their childhood, not the memories or what their traumas or their sickness, but to that free mind. Because when we really see that all traumas, all problems, you know, that people think it must be fixed, or you know, I must heal myself. It doesn't happen in the past, it's gone. We do it now. We do it now. And doing it now means understanding that when this happened, we associated the contaminated thought, the experience that we had through our thinking with that feeling, and it affected us. When we see the experience that we had at that moment, that it was coming through these three gifts, it's so much freeing. It really is. It's bring us back to our true self, to our true nature.
Good,
Where
good.
everything is beautiful there.
Yeah. John, this is a subject I'd like to hear your opinion on. John is came through a Christian perspective, so he has to have the same question in his mind. How do you see that, John?
Can you just repeat the question, what you're asking me to talk about? I lost a little bit of track there, but I know what you're saying.
So the question was, how would you explain that the teaching of the three principles are compatible with Islam? So in your case, with the Christianity or the Bible.
Yeah. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is our helper, isn't it? Because Jesus said, "I will send you another helper," and that Holy Spirit, if we can quieten our mind and in prayer or whatever, be in the Holy Spirit, you know, just pray quietly. You know, that Holy Spirit is always there, and it's the source of life. It never left us. It's always been there since the dawn of time. And going back to something you said earlier, all I can say is that when I started looking in this direction and started looking in the spiritual direction for myself through whoever I looked at on YouTube, and when I got to learn the three principles, I saw, maybe it's a bit too much to say, but the hypocrisy of Christianity, of the church. And I started seeing Christ and Jesus truly. I just looked at Christ and I was seeing what Christ was saying at a conscious level, and Christ consciousness, which is completely different from what I was taught, you know, because, you know, Christianity taught me you must be this way, you must be good, you must do this, you must not do that, but Christ wasn't. For me, Christ was just pointing to everyone who came to him, look to your consciousness, look within, and that's the three principles again, looking within. So that's how I see it. You know, I don't know if that helps.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, while you were talking, John, this reminds me of my religion as well, because there are a lot of people out there that we had this, white lab coat effect. I don't know if you've heard about it, but people who wear lab coats, they are seen as experts in their field. So people could listen to them without even checking, if it's a fact or yeah. So we have the same in Islam. People with a big beard, as seen as.
I'm on a call right now.
So I don't really listen to anyone, or I could listen to everyone, but use the Zen metaphor. The Zen metaphor is eat the fish whole and spit the bones. Keep what you need to keep, and reject the rest.
Hello?
And maybe I'm rejecting the rest because I don't see the truth of it at that moment. Maybe I'm not ready to hear that. But at some point, I will see it. At some point, I will hear it. Maybe I don't know when, but I will wait in the wisdom station for the wisdom train to go. So that's the metaphor. That's the way I see when people talk to me. And there is a verse in the Quran that says, listen to everyone and follow the best, the best of talks. And this is for me the Zen metaphor, really. Eat the fish whole and spit the bones, Keep what makes sense to you and reject the rest. And in rejecting the rest, it doesn't mean that it's not true. Maybe you're not just not ready to hear to hear that truth at that moment. But while my level of consciousness is rising, I'll be able to see it in a different lens.
I watched the other night, by random, I came across it, and it was not Maharashi, what's his name?
Doesn't matter, John.
Yeah, guy, you know who I mean, Harry. I'll think of his name but later. Someone like in that vein, Maharashi. He was he spoke, right? Sorry?
Krishnamurti?
Krishnamurti, yeah. And he was talking to what looked to me like an Irish priest father or whatever. But this Irish priest father, wow, was he open to listening? He just sat and he listened to Krishnamurti, and Krishnamurti worked with him, and they had this most beautiful conversation between a Christian and Krishnamurti, saying about, as Krishnamurti would. And I thought, oh, if his church was around the corner, I'd be going there, Yeah.
I'd like to sum up something here. In the three principles, it's a spiritual psychology. It's not a religion.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual psychology.
Yeah.
So when you are listening to Christian or Muslim religion, and it's coming from inside out, of course, it's perfect. But it doesn't, in what I have seen, it doesn't answer all the questions on your mind. So spiritually, it may answer that aspect of it. But then psychologically, how do I deal with the person who comes into my shop to buy codeine? Doesn't answer that question. Three principles answers that question. or people have a problem like addiction, and they through the Muslim religion they get the answer that they need, that faith that takes them away from the addiction, but it doesn't maybe answer their connection to God. Each person gets a different thing. So bringing the two worlds of spiritual and psychological together in a way that is practical in our world. Some people just need one way, and other people need 15 ways of wisdoms from different people. Both deserve a full answer. Both deserve and need. So I'm not just interested in, like, my pursuit has been my connection to Allah. That's been, except God, I call it God. And that's been my pursuit. But when I'm not happy as a human being, I found it very confusing. And even though I was growing from the inside out continually, which you are, by the way, on the outside, it looked like I was a big loser. So then I needed to have an understanding about thought and how it connects to the reality that I'm seeing. So the connection of what the Muslim religion and the three principles, since they're both pointing to exactly the one God that there is, is very beneficial for a lot of people. And yes, 3P is not for everyone. Yes. Even though it has the answer for everyone, so does Christ's teachings, so does Muhammad's teachings. Obviously, Muhammad's teachings as the answer for everyone, but not everyone's going to approach it from that perspective. All I can tell you is it's very healthy to not get lost into the mystical side of life if you have an anchor like the three principles. You don't get lost because you always come back to what's inside me. I have to be me. I have to understand that I have to be myself, and I have to be free of any concept that I have. Any concept that I have. Because as soon as I have a concept, I'm stuck. And one thing about life, it doesn't want you to be 99% pure. So that you'll see, concept, let it go. You say, well, what's left of me? You look in the Quran, you'll see what's left of you. Pure spirit. Beautiful, beautiful. And beautiful human beings. Beautiful. Us working together, living together. God, we're just one big global community. What's all this fighting about? Give me a break. I just can't handle it anymore. It's just so ridiculous. And people defending. They die for it. I don't want to die for my religion. I want to be.
I wake up and I feel the same way, and I see things, and I fall into that trap.
Yeah. So if you want a psychology that's spiritually based, it will ground you in your religion, whatever that is, whatever you choose.
And also, I mean, for me, the three principles is the answer for everyone, really, because if it purifies your filter, if it's pure, if it's taking out the scratches from your spectacles, you will see things as they are, you know? I mean, if something brings me back to who I truly am, and I'm in touch with that space, and I can't fail to recognize it, that's truth for me, you know? So I could read something really in a really silly book, and I found one truth, you know? I found something that is true, that resonates with me deeply. So I think the way that people see the three principles, that is not the answer for them. It's a wrong direction, because the whole point of this understanding is to bring you back to your default mode, which is love, peace, understanding, all that beautiful feeling we're seeking in the world of illusion. So that's what truth means to me, and that's what this understanding did and keep doing for me.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree.
Me too.
Yeah, beautiful.
So I have one last question. We still have like 4 minutes. I would love to end this sooner than later this
The
time.
last question was a doozy. That was a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. So this question is related to drugs, and I think we covered some of it in the previous show. But this one is related to, you know, the way people see drug addicts, and the way they judge them, and that they are not close to Allah or this infinite intelligence. Or so, what would you say to someone who is experiencing all the judgment and you know, and bad comments from people?
Yeah, it's similar to the first question, but it's so interesting you bring it up. I have this client that I'm meeting at 7 o'clock. It's only 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock my time, noon. And he just went into relapse, as I mentioned, ended up broke his leg in the hospital, and he was so angry at the way the people were so prejudiced and treated him like you know what, and it really upset him tremendously. So the first thing is there's systemic racism everywhere. You know, Black Lives Matter is a big issue in the United States now, and there's systemic racism, and people are, you know, get killed or die or are humiliated through this aspect of life, and in of course that's area I have a lot of experience in, as not personally in being that, but in helping people. That issue is always brought up. And it's so hard to be judged as a non-human being, judged as a piece, a loser in all aspects of it. So people have to come to something that's part of the test. We're all going to experience systemic racism. Muslims certainly experience systemic racism in the United States, even in Canada, which is about as non-racist a country as you'll ever see anywhere. You're going to be exposed to it. If you're going to be angry about it, so what did I say to the guy? Because he just texted me that and showed me a picture of his leg. I said, that was then. Get over it. It's like now you're out of the hospital. Why bring the hospital into now? So even though it's injustice, even though it's racial prejudice, even though it's pure stupidity of people, and they're in a bad mood too, by the way, You know, can't miss that one. When you move out of it, you have to leave that hurt behind. It doesn't mean you ignore it or don't talk about it, because people have to understand when there's injustice in the world, it must be exposed. But if you're going to bring it along when you're weak, and let's face it, if you're addicted, you're having trouble keeping your stuff together. So you've got to keep away from negative thinking. See, it's just thinking. You've got to keep away from it. When am I going to do this at 7 o'clock? I'm going to take the guy to a beautiful feeling. That's your answer. You have to go to a beautiful feeling. I said to a guy who sometimes we meet with John, I said, gee, you really like positive feelings. And he said, no, I love positive feelings. And that's where you have to go for your answer. The answer is, where's the healing? And even though it's true, injustice, racial prejudice, oh, she has a thing around her head. What is that about? You know, I'm a white supremacist. I know better than that. You know, all of that stuff comes from faulty thinking based upon what they probably learned from their parents. You know, daddy was prejudiced, I'm prejudiced, you know, type of thing. And so these attitudes. And when I'm an old guy, so Omar, the first prejudice I came up to myself was with women. Because I thought, oh, I'm so liberal. But when I met my wife, she didn't think I was so liberal. And she just pounded away until I woke up and realized that's a real human being there. There's no image, guy, girl, this, that type of stuff. So you can see everywhere you go, you're colliding with your own prejudices too. I have them. Now, she ripped it away. How did that make me feel? Great, because I wasn't stuck with an image of what life is. Don't bring your hurt feelings into the present when you're weak, would be my advice.
Yeah, I once attended Aaron Turner talk in London, and he said something that really woke me up from my blind spot back then. He said that it's not that life brings you down sometimes. It's that when you're down, everything you think feels like a kick. And this applies only drug addicts or people who are dealing with the hardship from others, like this guy who's seen as a target, and the people who like him, and these feelings come from people. I'm sure that his level of understanding at that moment is not clear. He's imprisoned innocently in his own thinking about people, the way they see him, and this and that. Because the moment we truly, really understand that this magnificent gift of thinking has everything to do with what we experience in our day-to-day experience in life, that's a game changer. That's a huge game changer, because switching from thinking that, oh my God, I feel bad because these people look at me in a way that I don't see myself, it makes me feel depressed, to, oh, they have been conditioned to see me this way. I mean, that's, they learn this when they were young and they were conditioned and they instantly caught up in their thinking, and I don't have to take it per. And I love this, this thing that says, if you don't take offense, you won't get offended. So you need to take offense first to get offended. If you don't take offense, you won't get offended. You have to allow it to touch you, and when we all do. I mean, every day I have something that makes me go and wonder and suffer, and that's why I call, pre-suffering, something that doesn't exist yet, and we all do this. We all do this, but the difference now is that we are more like wake up to the fact that, oh my God, here we go again. I'm making up this. I'm thinking this. I'm feeling this. And it's not that you're aware of your thinking, because sometimes our thinking in the background going on, we are not aware of it, but we are all the time living in the feeling of our thinking, moment to moment to moment to moment. That's a human experience.
And let's be clear, if you are offended by what other people are thinking, it colors what you see the others. So let's say there's a beautiful person, there's 4 pain in the asses and 1 beautiful person, you won't see the beautiful person because you're colored by that image that all these people are offensive to you. So you are, it's the same with women who can't meet a man. Oh, they're all bad. They're all they're seeing is this coloring of their thoughts, and all their girlfriends are agreeing with them. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So that becomes their reality, and then they're lonely. Well, why are they lonely? Because they're coloring their own perceptions, so they're not open to the jewels that are inside right now in that other person. You've got to be careful. It's not your prejudice that you're creating. I've every time I see a group that has a lot of prejudice against them, I see, yeah, they're prejudiced. Thus, they're creating that rebound prejudice to themselves. We're here to be open. I love that word, Omar. We're here to be open to what Allah is teaching, not to what Harry knows, but to what Allah is teaching. Are we open to Allah? I mean, it's important. It's not just, it's not freedom of choice, which it is, because you're given that, but it's freedom of thought. Use it wisely. Allah will kiss you.
I want to also touch on the part of forgiveness, forgiving ourselves, because that is really come between us and infinite intelligence, Allah, God, whatever you want to call it. We are making up this, we make up this stuff and we suffer what we did, what we made up. So forgiving ourselves means letting go, basically, just letting go of that noise in the background that is bothering us. I could pay attention to it and engage with it, or I could see it for what it is. Oh, here we go again. It's noisy out there. and it's so beautiful when you see this as it is, instead of as it isn't, because when you see it that it's there, like it's a cloud, it's gonna pass. I don't need to control it to go. So me and Harry are not suggesting to prefer one thought over the other. We are suggesting that it's all made up with the same, made up with the same stuff. Really, it's like the iceberg. It seems solid and real, but when it's melted down, it comes back to its essence. It's water. And it's the same with our thinking. We use this gift of our thinking, this power of thought, to create. And we have the illusion to suffer what we create with our own gift. So that's what we do. We really truly suffer our own creation. But here is the thing: we do it innocently, and that's the human experience. I always share this, but this is what the human experience is about. And life is ups and downs. And Sid used to talk a lot about this, and he said that life is like a contact sport. You will get your knocks. It's not about the knocks that you're getting. It's about how you handle them. If you handle them with hate and war, and you will get that. But if you handle them with love and understanding, you will get that. So it's truly seeing it as it really is. And I guess we approach the end of this show. It was beautiful. It was really beautiful, and I got a lot from it.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the questions that it wasn't me who wrote these questions, but I've asked people who shared what they would like to get answers on, and there were powerful, beautiful questions. So thank you everyone for.
Next week, in November 5th, we have Tisam, a professional Muslim lady who is a guest on the show, and she's very beautiful, and we hope to see you. Go ahead, Omar. Now you may wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for coming and sharing your questions with us. I hope this was helpful to you. And thank you for your participation and for joining us today. And thank you, Harry, for always for sharing your beautiful feelings and wisdom with us. So,
excuse me, it was interesting. I had to dig a little bit today to try and find that. And to be honest, I enjoyed that. Like it wasn't, it just, I had to actually dig in a little bit with the questions which were never been answered by myself before, etc. So thank you for the questions, honestly.
Yeah, it's always so good to answer questions from that present moment, because you can't think of a better way to answer a question. And the best answer I've heard or I've given according to people is a question that answered spontaneously, and there is a magic in that. There is magic in that. So thank you once again all for coming and joining us, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye everyone.
Thank you. Well, wasn't that interesting?
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Sharon.